So it's finally here, the RaceTalk Blueprint. The RaceTalk Blueprint is exactly what the title of the project says it is. It's conversations about race with the blueprint we hope will encourage you to do more than just watch. It's an initiative we hope you'll let thrive and take up space in your life so you can also contribute to a much-needed change that needs to happen in society today. These conversations are definitely uncomfortable, raw, and far from black and white, but they have the capacity to heal us through understanding. A bunch of my friends and I got together and we decided to have these uncomfortable conversations turn mini-series, and it kind of turned into something better than we even imagined. It was healing and so foreign and scary, but we made it. So watch us, get encouraged, and download the free blueprint toolkit we've created just for you to be able to have these same conversations in your circles.
Everyone loves the idea of a black woman until it's time to love a black woman. Everyone loves the idea of a green earth with an abundant selection of natural resources until we realize pollution is real, fast fashion is real, and carbon footprints are all very real. Everyone loves the idea of an innovative, resilient, courageous black woman until the disrespect is real, the colorism is real, the abuse is real. Acknowledge emotional black women. Acknowledge reserved black women. Acknowledge all black women. The phrase protect black women is not a conditional statement. The love for black women is too often based on desirability. There are people arguing whether or not black women need protection, and this is why we need to show up and show out for our women every time. I don't want to feel surprised when I see a black woman supported loudly by the black men of our community. I want the celebration, the applause, the words of encouragement. Invest in us. I don't want to teach a fish how to swim. These are basic asks. Hammering these ideals into the minds of many is exhausting, but
we know if we don't, who will?
The little remix that we're going to do for this episode, because it is Liberation of Black Women, I thought it would be a good idea to have a younger generation, Gen Z, with us to kind of just be flies on the walls and listen to us talk about our views, our thoughts, and for them to kind of just absorb it all, you know, because we don't all agree on certain things sometimes, you know, but.
So I was gonna ask, basically, out of that video, what resonated the most, just from watching that?
I guess for me, it was more so the relevance of people are enamored with Black women and they like the idea of getting to experience them, but not really getting to know them for who they are for like a long-term, serious, intimate relationship. And it's more so like a fantasy. And so for Brittany, her take on this was at the beginning about how women are desirable, again, that fantasy look. And she is a beautiful Black woman and she, you know, has curves, but she started to develop her curves at a younger age. So there was the objectification, the adultification of, you know, having to be seen by the world as like a sex symbol when she's just a child. So for her, she wasn't, it took her a minute to kind of like know who she really was outside of that, because society was just painting this picture of, ooh, you're curvy at a young age. So, and my question for the men is, after seeing this clip and hearing some of the thoughts from Brittany and then myself, and, you know, I'm sure other women will chime in, is this something that you have known about? Are you aware of this stuff or not really?
You know, it's this. I've been made aware of this, and this is something that's really real to me now. But growing up, it wasn't something that was really at top of my mind. You know, I was raised by a lot of women, but the narrative was kind of different in my household. So whenever I would see it at school, I wouldn't think too much of it, and I didn't know how to respond, how to react, how to, you know, show up. But it's taken me quite some time and a lot of education to understand how I can show up. And so,
For me, to be honest with you, I was pretty ignorant to it, and it's unfortunately it's been pretty recent that I've kind of woken up and taken a look around and like have woken up. I think one of the ways that I started to realize it was truly just to go in and start learning the history, looking up and learning stuff, and there's a direct correlation from our history to what we're seeing in the present day, and I just didn't have that knowledge or that insight before. So no, I wasn't I wasn't as aware of it that I am, but I am now.
I got a lot of insight, but I mean, as a man, you never really fully understand. And I think the thing that kind of was kind of just sad to me is just like, as you kind of get older and just different phases of your life, you kind of realize where like those same teachings of like, showing Black women respect, because like you see how disrespected they get in all phases of their life. As they get older, you just hear about more stories and things that they have to go through that you may have not understood when you were younger.
Yeah, same for me too. Honestly, I'm just trying to hear from y'all women, same as last time. I'm trying to hear from y'all first. They, them, I'm trying to hear from you as well. But, just going back to the video itself, the idea of just, like you said, Didi, it's like a fantasy, you know what I'm saying? They just want to experience a Black woman, based on things they've heard before, whatever the case is. But it's sort of like that fantasy kind of thing. I just want to experience it one time and see what it's like. But it's not something that they already have in their mind saying, you know what, I want to be with a Black woman. I want to love a Black woman. I want to accept a Black woman for exactly what she is and who she is. I'm ready to bring a Black woman to my family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not, a lot of the times they don't go in thinking that way. You know what I mean? And that's extremely sad, but that's to the point of the video. I mean, my thoughts on the whole thing, honestly, I wasn't aware of it. Even having 3 sisters myself, I wasn't aware of it growing up. But as I got to my adult age and, started hanging out with my boys, going out, meeting people, socializing, etc., I started to realize it, slowly but surely. And I can't remember which year it was exactly, but just to test the theory out, I Googled the most beautiful women in the world by culture and country or whatever. And there was a list that came out. I think this was probably 2013 or so. It was 100 of them. And there was not a single Black person until you got to about 80-ish in the number. And this is counting, up basically from 1 all the way to 100. And to me, that was just really sad to even see that, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, there were moments in high school, obviously being in Brooklyn too, it's just like, my friends growing up, in a lot of cases, myself as well, I'm gonna throw myself in there too, is just, we had all types of race and creed. In New York, it's a melting pot, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Venezuelans, Brazilians, all types of race and women. But you will find the Black women getting shunned a lot, you know what I mean? Like all the high school guys and football team, basketball team, were always looking for like the baddest looking Puerto Rican or Dominican or whatever. But so I kind of got a sense of it even growing up, but I just never really knew the magnitude until I got older and started doing my own research and started talking to friends and started making friends that are Black women in general, and they would just tell me stories and upon stories upon stories. And of course, what my sisters tell me as well, that's what really got my mind going. It got me thinking like, this is a really serious deal and it's a problem, and
I feel like that there are a lot of things in which can cause Black women, or have caused Black women, to be a target of mistreatment from Black men or society in general. One of those being ourselves. We have allowed ourselves to be degraded and disrespected because of a idea or an image in which we thought were respected. Give you an example. Everybody know this tip drill video by Nelly, where you had video vixens in the video shaking their behinds while Nelly was swiping credit cards down the middle of their booties. And so it was just like, at the time, right, we may have not saw anything wrong with that, because in the present moment we were in society, that was a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, being a video vixen was cool. Like, everybody wanted to have the big butts and the big breasts so they could be recognized, right? But when I see her today and I think about that, that was absolutely disgusting, if I'm just keeping it a stack, and there was nothing respectable about swiping credit cards down someone's butt on video. And so you have to sit back as a woman, as a Black woman, and say to yourself, what part of that did you think was cool at any point in life? And so that's what I mean by, some of the blame sits on us. And with that being said, it has allowed men to openly disrespect us. I sometimes struggle with the idea of Black men dating a white woman. And it's not saying like, oh, I have a thing against white women or white people. It's not that. It's just, when you are dating maybe a person not of Black race that has clearly gone and got their butt done by Dr. Miami, they went and puffed their lips up by Kylie Jenner products, and they are clearly tanning themselves to look like me. Why you just didn't go with the Black girl, me, right? Or my homegirl that's just as qualified, sis. You know what I'm saying? Like, why you just didn't pick one of us? And so sometimes that feels like a slap in the face, because I sit back and I'm like, well, ain't your mama Black? What about your granny? You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, I teeter that line of preference very thin, because it's just kind of like, well, you preferred to have a big booty and big juicy lips, just not on a Black girl, so it's just kind of like, where do we define preference there? And that was the whole thing with Chris Brown, was like, oh, he says he loves Black women, but every time you look at his video, you only see the very fair shade of Black women, or you don't see darker skinned women at all. Like me, you probably see somebody of a different race, Brazilian, Puerto Rican, everything but Black. And I think Black men also fail to realize that we don't come in one shade. We come in all different colors, sizes, shapes, and, sometimes y'all are very narrow-minded on what a Black woman is defined as. And that is definitely not the case. I was telling my friends last time that, I was going through school and I went through a period where I really started to look at myself like, God, like, why you didn't give me the big butt? Because guys would walk up to me and be like, girl, if you had, you would be bad if you had. And it's just like, okay, all right, so how can I get the cheap version of Dr. Miami to get my butt done, right? And it would just, it's like degrading myself, and I went through an emotional period where, I started thinking to myself, like, why, like, I'm confused. God's supposed to tell you, you're supposed to love the body that you're in. And that's just not how I was being portrayed in the eyes of society. So, but today, you can't tell me I ain't got no big butt, because I carry this 120 real well, okay? And so I am very confident in the skin that I'm in. But let's be clear, it took me a while to get there, because I was listening to the society and, Black men who was approaching me if you were bad, if you had, you know what I'm saying? And so I still don't have, but you can't tell me she ain't got a big butt, okay? And she ain't fine, period.
I agree with, I see you in everything that you said. I think that every single aspect of everything you say, of everything you said, I have felt at some point in time, you know, in life. It's so crazy because having this conversation is like dredging up memories that I feel like I have suppressed for a long time, you know? I've become so confident and secure and comfortable in my aura. Like we call, what do you call, electro abundance vibes? Like, you know, like it's a whole thing, you know, in our household. And that I've forgotten what it took to get here, you know? And I actively also pour love into my sister, you know? I actively also am very careful with the standards that I push upon her as well. I think as Black women, we set this bar so high for ourselves, you know, that we should just kind of sometimes just give ourselves room to be. It's okay if it's crazy because as religious as I am, my sister will tell you, like, I'll be the first one if she wants to shake some ass. Shake your ass, girl. You know, we tethered this line of, as far as you always know that you have every authority over your body, whatever you are doing, it is something that you have authority over. At any point in time where you feel that you do not have 100% authority over your body, we need to get you out of that situation. So that is kind of how we educate ourselves on how to carry one another, carry yourself in certain spaces, you know? And on the flip side as well, even when us as Black women do attain that bar that we have set for ourselves, you can't really say, you know, if you will be protected. You having this conversation brought up a memory of me. Ooh, about to get a little deep. I used to work at this oil company. That was my first job out of college. I was doing their marketing. And I went on this company trip in Oklahoma. Bunch of white men. Only Black, there was like another white woman. I was the only Black woman there. And that was the first night I was in my room in like normal stuff. And this, one of the white guys came to my door, the engineers, drunk as hell. So I'm like, is he, you know, is he in the wrong? Perhaps, like, he's knocking. I'm like, maybe he thinks it's his room because he's trying to get in. So I opened the door. I'm like, are you like, this is not your room, bro. Like, it's my room. And he was like the nicest one to me. And then he goes, I've never been with a colored woman before. And I just froze. Like, I just froze. You know, you think in that situation, like, you're gonna like slap a bitch, excuse my language, like you're gonna get bucked in that situation. You think like, but I just froze. And when I just stood there, he kind of stumbled on into the room, fell on the floor, and I just left the door open. I called one of my guy friends. He was on speaker, and he kind of just stayed on there. He kind of talked the guy out of leaving the room. And I guess this is also comes in to say, when we say, Black men, please protect Black women. When you hear stories like that those are things that we go through, you know, that somebody, the words, I've never been with a colored woman. This was like a fetish thing for him. And had to call and the dude I was dating at that time didn't even pick up the phone. I had to call my guy friend, Kwame. And he dealt with it from the phone. But I never spoke about it till now.
I didn't know.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
My tech access is a little off today. I know it would feel more personal if I was like looking at all of you guys to be able to, you know, react and respond and be mindful of when, you know, you guys want to and talk and not speak. But I wanted to just add to what you guys were just talking about really this fetishization. And honestly, I had a very similar experience like that, where it was a person that was actually Black who was like, yo, this is my first time ever being with a Black woman. And it's kind of hard to it's just hard to respond to that. It's like, what? Like, why are we made out to be such this like taboo thing, or like people position us in their minds in a way that has nothing to do with how we feel about ourselves. It just has everything to do with how people feel about themselves, their insecurities, and then they project it on us. I think it has a big thing to do with society, like white male supremacy. Like that is something that is hell bent on making Black women feel like they are the dirt and the scum of the earth. That's where I attribute it to. I attribute it to society and the principles of white male supremacy. I think as far as what Black women being the blame, it's like, think about it. If you're living in society and everybody, the only way you can achieve anything, or if the world is telling you constantly like who you should think you are to be, like that's going to be your default. So I do see that, you know, I do see our responsibility in seeing ourselves differently. But this pressure of society is a really, really big, it's a big part that really, I don't even think I can even explain it. It's really just a feeling. It really is a feeling every morning when I wake up, everything when I'm walking down the street. Like, it really is just a feeling because it becomes a part of your subconscious. Yeah, and then when you want to talk about Black men too, like they play a big part in it and not standing up for us and protecting us. But at the same time too, the pressures of society have also broken them down to the point where, you know, a lot of ways in which they could have protected us have been completely, you know, dismantled and diminished. So I just really think it's collectively like the concepts and the principles that people believe in society that keep us in this position and that further perpetuate how we should think less of ourselves. And you know, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. And Brittany, just to, you know, ride the coattails there, I agree 100% with what you said. I also don't see it as a blame either side, male or female. I actually see the females as the victims, and we can't blame the victims here, right? Because I think, like Brittany said, the society plays a huge role in defining this. The only way we can actually fight back is through an awakening of sorts. You know, Ashley mentioned the imagery, right, of how you see yourself. You wake up one morning, or you grow, as the older you get, you start realizing your self-worth, and you start projecting yourself in a certain way that you want to be seen as. I think it's just, how do we get enough Black women to have that awakening, right? To see themselves in a new light as queens that they are, right? You being queens.
But wait, I gotta interject. That's not the problem. I don't think that's the problem. Because innately, intrinsically, point blank period, I wake up feeling wonderful every day. Mm-hmm. I don't think collectively it's Black women seeing themselves as better. I think it's making sure that we're not receiving counterintuitive messaging every day.
Yeah.
And we're not receiving counterintuitive treatment every day.
Yeah, and I was getting to that part. Like, it's not that's just one piece of it, but the part I wanted is like, there has to be a support structure to kind of like pair with it, right? Because you can wake up and feel like Superwoman, right? But the society is there constantly trying to crush you. So I was just saying, like, the first part of it is obviously doing that, you know, seeing yourself as a Superwoman that you are. But the Black man, right, also needs awakening as well, right? And I'm just talking from a personal point of view. I grew up in a house of 10 women. So I always saw women as like queens. Like, that's how we were treated in the household. I didn't even have that imagery that they were being oppressed. But like when I became an adult and I came into the society, I started seeing it gradually in corporate America, in just society, in music videos, entertainment, and all that. And it started dawning on me. So I'm just saying that, like, in order to help elevate and kind of break that mold, is like Black men and just the society, we just need to change that outlook on the Black woman. And we can, because otherwise it would just sit down and say, yeah, the society is doing this, you know, the white male supremacy, they've been driving this narrative for hundreds of years, right? To treat women and Black women as dirt. What do we have to do to change that? We have to be awake. We have to be awakened, right? And we have to make that stand. And the only way we can do that is if we collectively band together and say that this is a time to institute change. It's just going to keep on perpetuating. So that's what I was meaning, that it's like multiple facets, but that foundation is critical for it.
I think we need to just break the curse. I think it's a generational curse that's hovering over our Black community from dated back to slavery, right?